Hi Cherry Pies, this is going to be a housework ramble, and I'm going to warn you I'm feeling a little bit worse for wear today because I went out for my birthday weekend in London with some friends. It was amazing, but it was very, very full on. Lots of dancing, lots of techno, not a lot of sleep. Perfect way to celebrate being 33, in my opinion anyway. So now I've got a bit of washing up to do, and I thought I had to kind of like give myself a couple of carrots. So if I really don't want to do housework, if I'm really resisting it and I'm like, oh, I really don't want to do that, I'd rather do anything but that, and I start randomly like looking at stuff online or just delaying, then the best thing to do is to give myself a bit of a carrot. So maybe to say to myself, look, you can have this to eat after you've done the washing up, or, you know, whatever, something like that. I can go for a walk after I've done the washing up. And that makes me kind of make a little contract with myself. And today I have just received a package from my friend who lives in Amsterdam, and I know it's full of birthday bits and pieces. So I have left it on the couch, which is tantalising and was really difficult to do because I'm going to open it after I've done the washing up. So that's the perfect carrot. The washing up itself is not that much. It's the recycling that's quite a lot that makes it look so bulky to me when I'm looking at it. Like, there are jars and cans and stuff that need to be rinsed out and put in the recycling. So actually the washing up portion of things is not so bad. It's the recycling that takes the time. But of course it's well worth it because we love Mother Nature. Look at this cup that I got as a birthday present. When life gives you lemons, grab the gin and tonic. And that was bought for me by someone who knows me too well. And the other carrot that I thought I would give myself, as well as waiting on the package, waiting on opening the package, was to make a housework ramble, because that kind of makes me feel like, you know, we're in this together. So if you have any housework that you need to do, if you've got some plates that you need to do, or some sorting of clothes, some ironing, prop me up somewhere on your phone or your tablet or your whatever device you're using, darling, and hook me up to some speakers if you need to, or put your headphones on and put me in your pocket, and together we will organise our shit. I thought today I would chat a little bit about Christmas. I know that it's not the easiest time for a lot of people. I know that it can be a little bit of a head fuck for a lot of people. I know that there are quite a few difficult decisions sometimes, or complicated situations that need to be made regarding Christmas at the time of Christmas, and that makes it into a big stress factor. I know that money is a stress for a lot of people. What to buy people for people is an issue for people. Going home and seeing family, that kind of thing. So I wanted to talk a little bit about something that is reasonably unique to me among people that I know in my life anyway, and that is that I just don't celebrate Christmas. Now obviously I do have friends from, you know, different religious denominations that don't celebrate Christmas, but I'm the only person who's grown up in, you know, a family and a home where Christmas was celebrated. My whole family celebrated Christmas. Everybody I went to school with, pretty much, save one or two people, celebrated Christmas. So it's not often that I come across somebody who actually has Christmas as a part of their culture, if you will, and as a norm for them, a social norm, who actually just doesn't celebrate it, has decided to kind of bow out of it completely. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about my perspective on this and why I did it for myself. Because, make no mistake, it is a self-loving act. It's something that I did for myself out of love for myself, my soul, my mind. I wanted to help myself, and that's why I kind of bowed out of Christmas, because I realised that it wasn't a good time for me. It wasn't a happy time for me. I did not enjoy Christmas, and after a while I just started to think to myself, is there really any reason that I should continue to do this? And the only reason that I came up with was that it would hurt other people if I didn't do it. That maybe they would be disappointed that I wasn't invested in the celebration. Maybe they would be disappointed that they wouldn't necessarily get to see me, or receive a present from me. And I think I kept going for a long time for that, because I didn't want to upset people. I didn't want to make people feel like I was bowing out on them and this really, you know, important thing for them. And after a while, that just wasn't a good enough reason to keep celebrating anymore. I just felt like I was sacrificing so much of my emotional well-being doing the whole Christmas thing. And I realised that keeping it going for other people was really harmful. It's not only harmful for me, but it's actually also harmful for them in a way, because if somebody really has a very strong negative emotional response to you not celebrating Christmas with them, then surely there comes a point where they need to question that. They need to look at that and think about why that is, and why it's so tragic for them that you have decided to do something that you would prefer to do and that would make you feel happier. So I think sometimes it is about looking at your reaction to somebody bowing out of something like Christmas, for example, and recognizing that your reaction is very strong, and basically just having a word with yourself about why that might be and whether or not it really is sad. Is it really sad that somebody has sort of decided to step away from something that really actually was not helping them, was actually really hindering their ability to feel content and satisfied with their life? Isn't it better that that person makes the decision to move away from something that's making them feel like that? I think it's better. And I do think that if we have a very strong negative reaction to somebody doing what they've got to do for themselves and deciding to go against the grain and go against the norm because of love for themselves, if we have a strong negative reaction to that, we really need to decide why that is. We need to examine it. And I felt that it was not necessarily wrong for me to expect certain family members to have some accountability for the way they feel about me deciding I don't want to do Christmas anymore, and really take it back to a place of self and, you know, figure out why it is that it is so important to them that everybody uniformly celebrates Christmas and does something for Christmas, even if it's really upsetting to them, even if it is really not a good time for them, even if they would rather bow out. I think that somebody that wants everybody to be very Christmas positive and celebrate Christmas, even though some of them don't want to, just need to question why do they have that really strong response? Why do they want to force people into Christmas, you know? So, God, I'm rambling so hard because obviously I've got no real plan for this. I only decided what I was going to talk about 5 minutes before I turned the camera on, to be honest, because it's been on my mind lately. Lately, I've seen a couple of videos on this topic. One of them was by Joey Morris talking about the holiday season being difficult and not having a family to go to, and that feeling of being shut out and isolated. And Panaria has done a really good video about the holiday blues as well, and just coping with that. So I'll leave both of those videos below for you guys, so you can check them out as well. And I suppose this is my, or some of my anyway, input on the discussion. So that's gotten me thinking a little bit more about my own emotional response to Christmas and my decision to ultimately bow out of it. So I thought I could share some thoughts with you on that. And I will share some thoughts on Christmas in general, and maybe talk a little bit about how you can make your Christmases more bearable and more satisfying for you if you are not in a place in your life where you feel like you can just bow out of Christmas. You know, maybe you've got a partner that you live with who's very Christmas positive and does want to have Christmas. Maybe you have children and you don't feel like there's any way that you can take everybody out of Christmas just because you don't want to celebrate it. There might be reasons why you can't do what I have done, and I appreciate that and I hear that. So I'm definitely going to try talking a little bit as well about different ways that you can make Christmas a little bit more bearable for your good selves if you do find you are in that category of people that isn't able or ready to walk away from Christmas as a concept and as a celebration, but you would like to be self-loving as you go through the season instead of finding that it's just a major pain in the arse for you, you know? As I was growing up, there came a certain point where I became increasingly aware of the way that Christmas has been packaged and presented, and the fact that the meaning of the festival, or indeed any of the cultural values that are supposed to be associated with the festival, have just kind of like gone the way of the dodo. Nobody is really talking about them or thinking about them much. What everybody is thinking about a lot is what they're going to get for people, you know, what kinds of presents people would like, and making a fuss of people. And obviously, yes, of course, also spending time with people, breaking bread with people, you know, eating, drinking and being merry, parties and that kind of thing. So there certainly is an opportunity for, you know, coming together and talking and enjoying good times. But there is a lot of money to be spent, even when we're talking about making meals or going to parties. there is a lot of materialism still involved, which is very good for big business. It's very good for big and small business alike. And as I started to look more at the advertising on TV, like I don't have a TV, I don't have a TV license, I don't watch TV. But when I was growing up, of course, I had a TV in the house. And when I started to notice in my early teens the amount of adverts for Christmas gifts coming up all over the place, and also the very manipulative way that these adverts were scheduled, so that you've got your toy adverts at the times when the kids are going to be home from school and they're definitely going to be watching TV, and then they can hound their parents for what they want, right? And then you've got like the perfume adverts for him and her in the evening time, so when couples are sat together they can say, oh, I'd like that for Christmas. I just felt really increasingly cynical about the whole thing. And because I didn't see much of anything else going on at Christmas other than materialism or things that you can only get involved in if you spend money, I just felt really turned off by the whole thing. I started to feel like it just wasn't right. I also started to realise that you can really feel a tense, stressed energy when you go into like shopping centres and stuff like that on the run up to Christmas. I was actually in a shopping centre by accident. It's a long story, but I was in a shopping centre at the weekend and I was walking through it, and there were people moving in and out of shops at a really kind of frantic pace, children that were stressed out and they were annoying their parents because they were clearly frustrated and they clearly wanted to leave the environment, and the parents were getting frustrated with the kids because they wanted to get on with their Christmas shopping and the kids were delaying them and slowing them down. And a lot of the people's faces had a notably strained look on them. It was either like 1,000 yards there kind of look, like they're trying to be anywhere but they're doing what they're doing, or it was really just stressed and, you know, furrowed brow and just kind of like looking around at which shop to go to next, or talking in a really like urgent way with someone about, right, what are we going to do now? There was not much of a sense of joy at all. And you know that the shopping centres are way more full at this time of year because everyone's going to get their presents. And so that to me is another sign of Christmas looming, is just the feeling that people have that they need to give. They need to spend money. They need to make sure that the gifts that they give to others are as good, if not better, than the gifts that they're receiving. There are a lot of stresses around gifts as well. Like, for example, when I used to celebrate Christmas, I used to get so stressed about what to get somebody in relation to what they might be getting me. That was one thing that used to really kind of, I had to do a lot of mental calculation in my head because I wanted to make sure that the gift that I gave somebody wasn't underwhelming or overwhelming. And that was one thing. Another thing was just trying to decide who to buy for. And part of that was wondering whether or not they had bought for me, because obviously I didn't want to get caught with egg on my face. Weird thing for a vegan to say, I know. But I didn't want to get caught with egg on my face having not bought them anything if they had expected that we were going to be gift giving. And I noticed that quite a few of my friends would have the conversation with me, like, Kelly, are we giving gifts this year or not? Like, you know, what do you want to do? Just want to give cards, or just want to give, or would you give gifts as well? And a lot of the, you know, whenever friends would say this to me, it would kind of be like, I just want to make sure because I don't know who I'm buying gifts for and who I'm not. And, you know, a couple of friends would say to me, I'm really hard up. Do you mind if we don't do presents this year? Those conversations would make me feel really awkward and weird. Like, it takes the spontaneity out of it. It really does. Like, deciding to buy gifts or not buy gifts, I felt was very formulaic. Is that the word I want? It's very formal, that's what I meant. It's very formal. And it just takes all of the enchantment out of it. And if you say, yes, I've already bought you a gift, then you feel like you're lumbering that person with getting you a gift in return. And you feel like maybe they really hoped that you would say, no, let's not exchange gifts, because maybe they don't have the money for everyone. Maybe they don't have the money to make it stretch that far. So all of these considerations were really piling up on me quite a lot. I know that some people do just tell everybody in their lives that they're not going to do gifts and they don't want any gifts in return. I didn't feel like I could do that, really. I knew that there would be some people that would give me gifts, that they want to give gifts at Christmas. That's what they do. So I kind of felt like I don't want to say I'm not going to give gifts and then receive gifts. That would feel weird for me and wrong for me. So that was definitely something that mounted. It was just this feeling that consumerism was the order of the day as far as Christmas was concerned, that we were being programmed to buy, we were being programmed to buy more, and it just felt really wrong. And I realised my own personal stresses when it came to presents, as well as, of course, there would be some years where I was not as flush. There are some years where I've got more cash and some years where I have less. And so that would always feel weird as well. Like if I'd had a really, really flush year and I got everybody in my life beautiful gifts and I decided to make Christmas into a big thing because I was, you know, I definitely had the money to do it. There'd be other years where I hadn't had the money. And this is specifically true of the 5 years on and off when my back problem was really bad and I was spending big chunks of time not being able to work. Those years were really difficult for me because if I'd had a really flush year the year before, I personally just felt crappy about not being able to buy much for people the next year round. And this is just my personal thing. I know that some people wouldn't have those concerns, but for me, it was on my mind. It was on my mind. That's what I'm going to say. I'm not going to say it was the end of the world, but it was causing me anxiety and I didn't like it. Choosing what to buy somebody can be difficult for me. As a human being, it's just something that is actually difficult for me. So choosing what to buy somebody for their birthday, which is this one-off thing that happens once a year and it's for that one person, that is sometimes difficult enough for me. I do spend quite a lot of time like wandering around the shops or thinking, what do I really want to get this person? And I know sometimes that I should just relax on that, but it's quite hard to train my mind to relax on that at times. And so imagine for somebody like me who has that kind of issue, buying for 20, 30, 40, 45 people. Imagine that. It's too much. There are things that you can do if you are that kind of person. If you are the kind of person that does struggle and you overthink when you're gift buying, there are definitely things that you can do to prevent that from happening. One thing that I do is I have a list of things that are gender neutral and pleasant to receive, useful to receive, nice to have in the house, that you can get people for Christmas and birthday. And that really helps me because it stops me from getting so in my head about it. But when it's Christmas and I'm buying for so many people, even things like making a list, for example, to try and help myself to get out of that mindset, it's really hard to even use those kinds of tools because you just feel overwhelmed. You feel overwhelmed by the sheer amount of decisions you have to make for different people. So I just really didn't enjoy it for that reason. I also can't really feel good about a festival that has become, in this country anyway, so wildly materialistic when I was watching people spending Christmas on the street and that kind of thing and having nothing. So that also is something that I found difficult. Christmas can have some bad memories for me. There are definitely some memories that I have from around the time of Christmas which are not pleasant. And some Christmas times with family have not been the best for me. And you could say that I can make new memories now and every single Christmas is its own thing. But to be honest with you, because of the very capitalistic, materialistic, kind of consumerist and highly stressed out way that people are trained to approach Christmas, that really dampened my ability to have Christmas in a different way. I feel like had I not already have grown so cynical about the festival, I would have had a better time making fresh memories and it wouldn't have been an issue. But I was already noticing and had been noticing for many years how Christmas is set up the way that it is to fund businesses, to make money. It's a massive cash cow. I know that there are families who have managed to craft their own kind of Christmas where they may only give one gift each to each other and they may not give gifts for friends or extended family. There are situations where everybody is aware of that. You know, some families make everybody aware that they do Christmas in their own way, they do their own kind of thing, and they don't plan to buy big gifts for everybody. They don't plan to send out cards or whatever. And I think that is great. I think that that is definitely something that is difficult to achieve. And I think that's why a lot of families have not achieved it. And they tend to rub along together in some kind of a compromise at Christmas because they want to avoid hurting people. They want to make sure that they maybe see somebody who might be socially isolated for Christmas. That's definitely something that I have done. I've definitely done the compromise thing. I've definitely said that I will be attending functions so I can see people, but I'm not going to be giving gifts. I think it's great if it can be done. I think it's great if a family together can say, you know, we're going to be attending functions, but we're not going to be giving gifts, or whatever the case may be. Or maybe a family decides that they're only going to do very few presents and they're going to kind of cut down on the amount that they spend on Christmas. This can be very difficult though for families with young children to achieve, of course, because of the great snowy white deception. I'm not going to talk about it in case there are any little ones watching, but you know, there is definitely that element where, because of the way that we have set Christmas up, the framework that we give to children about what Christmas is and how presents materialize, there's definitely obviously an issue with that, because some parents have more money than others. And some parents feel they may have to compete or keep up with parents who have more money. And obviously they can't explain to the children, look, we're going to have a Christmas with not very many presents. It doesn't really work like that maybe until the children are a little bit older. I would love to know though if any of you have different experiences, if maybe you did speak to your children quite early on and talk to them about, you know, the truth, I guess, and what you would like to do for Christmas, or if you want to do that with your own children when you have them, or at some point if you already have them. If you're someone who has certain members of your family that you choose not to have contact with, or that you try to have very minimal contact with, then you're probably going to find it difficult to go to the family get together for Christmas. It might be something that you dread. It might be something that you agonize over for weeks and weeks. And that might be something that really prevents you from enjoying Christmas or thinking of it as a positive time. If you are actually cut off from certain members of your family as an act of self-love, as I am, then it's going to be nigh on impossible for you to attend family gatherings where those members of the family that you are cut off from are going to be attending. So there's all of these different things that have been stresses for me and could possibly quite likely be stresses for a lot of you watching. And in the end, I just decided that I was at a stage in my life where I could give myself permission not to involve myself in Christmas anymore. And so that's what I have done for the last 3 years. I just have not gotten involved. It's not something that I want to push myself to do. It's not something that I think is healthy for me. It's not a compromise that I want to make for other people anymore, for their sense of comfort, for their sense of familiarity. One weird thing about me is that I do like Christmas jumpers though. I do have 3 Christmas jumpers and I very much enjoy wearing them during the season. So that's quite strange. But Christmas jumpers are great. They're so vibrant. I definitely had some fears of judgment when I stopped celebrating Christmas. So I feared how friends would react to my decision. I particularly had some feelings of anxiety around how new partners or new friends who'd only just come into my life might feel about the idea of me not celebrating Christmas. I did wonder if it would raise some eyebrows, and I knew that I wanted to carry on regardless of that because it was what I wanted to do. I've also begun to take Yule increasingly seriously in the last few years, and it is really an important celebration for me. It's an important festival in my spiritual calendar. And I do a lot of proprietary work in order to be able to do the things at Yule that I want to do. I prepare for it mentally. I sort of organise my space so that I know that when Yule arrives I can do the ritual that I want to do. I've got more than one reading that I do, you know, all of this kind of thing. And that takes a lot out of me, and it's been great since I haven't been celebrating Christmas because I can focus so much more on Yule as a festival, and that has been something I'm really glad that I've given to myself. So back to the fear of judgment that I was talking about. So I did fear judgment when I told people new or old in my life, that I don't celebrate Christmas anymore, that I don't want to be involved with present giving or receiving. I don't want to send cards. I don't want to recognise it in any way, really, apart from my weird Christmas jumper fetish. I didn't really get any judgment per se. I definitely have had a few people saying, oh, that's a shame. That's such a shame. Christmas is such a happy time. And they would kind of react as though it was almost tragic. Like something must have happened to make me not want to celebrate Christmas. And there's like a kind of a little bit of an inquiry there. And I don't think it's tragic at all. I don't think the narrative has to be tragic whatsoever. I think for me, it would be tragic to go on putting myself through doing all the Christmas stuff when I really just don't like it. I just don't believe in it. I had actually tried to bow out of Christmas a few years before I did. And I can't remember exactly what year it was, but I was interested in volunteering with a organisation who help with the homeless. And I was talking to one of the guys that runs it in my area at the time. And he was talking about Christmas volunteering to serve the Christmas dinner there and stuff like that. And I told my family that that was what I was going to be doing. I hadn't actually told that guy yet that I wanted to do it, but I was thinking about it. He invited me to do it. I wanted to do something different at Christmas. I wanted to do something to make a difference. And so I decided I would do it, and I informed my family, and I very quickly got word back from one member of my family that another close member of my family was really not happy with this decision. She just had a baby, and she was really surprised and upset that I wasn't going to be there for the family Christmas to see the baby and, you know, interact with the baby when they're not going to be babies forever, and there's only so many Christmases where they're small and all that kind of thing. And I felt pressured, and so I decided to back out of my plan and not volunteer with the homeless and actually go home instead. The following year, I actually went ahead with my intention to take some shifts with this organisation between Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. And I was very strict on it then. And I think that that particular member of my family was okay with that because I had compromised the first time. And also because I'd broken up with my boyfriend that year and I was particularly brokenhearted about it. And I just felt it was almost like a sense of empowerment. Like, look, no, I'm brokenhearted. I'm not in the mood for Christmas. I want to do something to give back. I recognise that Christmas is a very unequal time where a lot of people have fuck all and other people have loads, and it's not fair, and I want to do something to redress that balance. So that year I actually managed to do it, and I kind of broke that tradition. I did have a couple more family style Christmases after that, but that was the seed that was sown where I said, no, I don't want to do Christmas. And like I said, it was met with resistance from a family member. It was met with a family member saying, no, you have to come home, you have to be with the family, it's Christmas. So I can understand that it's definitely difficult to bow out of Christmas, because the first attempt that I made to do something different with my Christmas day was thwarted by a family member that would rather that I had been there. So, you know, it is difficult. There is a lot of pressure. There are a lot of people that feel like Christmas is a really important time. And when you have come to realise that you do not think it's an important time whatsoever, and you would rather be doing something else with that time, it is met with resistance. And it is really difficult sometimes to communicate that genuinely you just don't feel the same way as them. And you don't want to have to force yourself to put on an act to celebrate Christmas when it's really just not for you. I had begun to find Christmas increasingly depressing when I was still forcing myself to celebrate it, to be honest. Like, a lot of stuff is just done as a formality, and I find that there is something very hollow in that. There's something very empty in that. Like, for example, if you live in a block of flats, then you might get a Christmas card from everybody who lives on the same block as you. If you live in shared accommodation, you might get Christmas cards from everyone else in the house, regardless of whether or not you really speak or even get on. And if you work in an office, you are definitely going to get some cards from people who have written out a card for every single person on the registry for that office, and some of the people you've barely even spoken to. I remember years that I've worked in offices and I've received Christmas cards from, you know, the account manager for so-and-so and his wife and his family, and I've literally only spoken to him once or twice. Like, there's no other connection between us, and there's no kiss on the card, there's no personalised message on the card, of course, because I don't know the guy, and sometimes it would even have your last name on the card. That's how cold almost it was at times. Like, dear Kellyanne Maddox, happy Christmas from, you know, so-and-so last name and family. And I just thought, why are we doing this? Is this what trees are being cut down for? Seriously? Sometimes I think it's just about letting yourself think seriously about what Christmas is and what Christmas means. And I'm not speaking to the Christians among you, because I know you know what it is and what it means to you. But there are a lot of people that do not believe in God, or they believe in something else aside from the God of the Bible and Jesus and all the rest of it. And they tend to say that it is about coming together, it's about spending time together, it's about connecting. But I always feel like birthdays are a better time to do that. They're less stressful, I think, for everybody involved. There isn't so much the pressure with birthdays. You can make a fuss of one individual person on their birthday. And even if you might not be able to get to them, if they live far away, if they've invited you to something and you don't have the money to go, you can at least get them a really lovely birthday card and write a really nice message in it. You can do something to make that person feel special and like you have really thought about something to do for their special day. Just even if it's a lovely text message or whatever, that just really wishes that person a beautiful day and gives them all good vibes and good thoughts and stuff like that. I feel like that really allows you to focus your attention on that one individual person, rather than running yourself ragged, focusing on all of these people all together at the same time and worrying about what you're getting for somebody compared to what you're getting to somebody else, and who's buying for who, and if there are invitations and you have to reject one and go to the other, how do you make that decision? What happens if one party finds out that you went to the other party's event instead? Like, you know, all of these things. These things are not good for me. They're not good for my fucking blood pressure. And if I'm going to have that once a year, every year, I need to know it's for something that I really believe in. It's for something that I feel really good about. So there's got to be that payoff. And I think for a lot of people with Christmas, there is that payoff. They will say that it is stressful. Yes. They will say that it is expensive. Yes. They will say that it is a lot of running around and a lot of difficult time management related stuff and all the rest of it. But for them, they still believe the payoff is totally worth it, that Christmas is the thing. Christmas is a beautiful, exciting, vibrant time of year, and they want to be involved with it. I didn't get my part of the deal. That's what I realised. I had the stress and the worry and the overthinking, but I didn't have the payoff. I didn't get that feeling of loving Christmas and just being glad that it was finally there and we were all together opening our presents or having a meal. What I got was a feeling of being isolated from certain areas or aspects of my family where I wasn't wanted, or I felt it was best to retract myself from the relationship with them because it was harmful, it was hurting me. I got feelings of worrying about how many people have got nothing, how many people are so sad at Christmas, and how it compounds their feelings of loneliness and social isolation. It wasn't worth it for me. It wasn't like I got that lovely fuzzy feeling on Christmas morning. It's not like I really get fuzzy feelings looking at Christmas lights. I don't even get fuzzy listening to Christmas songs really anymore. I definitely used to be more fuzzy when I was listening to Christmas songs, but that's slowly worn off as well. I'm just not interested anymore. So I just feel like I'm perpetually doing something for others when I should just really admit that the self-loving thing would be to not do it for me, for my sanity. If you can't step away from Christmas, if you actually just feel that it's not possible, you've got children, you know, it's a big family thing, you are not prepared to do what I've done and just say to everybody, hey, here's the memo, I don't celebrate Christmas anymore, have a good one, bye-bye. If you don't feel that you can do that, then there are some other things that you can do to make Christmas less stressful, maybe less expensive. And I think one of those things can be to let everybody know that instead of purchasing gifts for them this Christmas, you're going to be giving a donation to a charity, and state the amount that you're going to be giving and to what charity, letting them know that that is about the amount that you would have spent on presents, but you're going to give it to the charity instead. That can be a really good thing to send out in your Christmas cards or in a group email or however you want to do it. Just letting people know that instead of buying individual presents, you're going to be giving to an organisation. Who can say that that's not a great thing? You know, who can argue with that, really? And if they do argue with that, and if they do give you a hard time about it, then they really do need to have a serious word with themselves. So that's one thing that you can definitely do, is just make a donation. If you don't want to state the amount, you don't have to state the amount. If you know that you wouldn't have been able to spend very much on presents, then just give $20 to an organisation and just say that you're doing that instead. You know, you don't have to get into numbers if that's uncomfortable for you. You can be more reserved about it than that. But please don't do something like put presents on a credit card, or spend yourself stupid getting people lovely things because you feel like you have to, or they won't love you as much if you don't, because that is just not self-loving. And sometimes you do need to let somebody else down in order to lift yourself up and be loving towards yourself. I know that can be hard for some people to take, but they do actually need to do the work to go away and think about why that is. And they need to reframe their response to this thing that you've done for yourself so that you can preserve your own emotional well-being. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Another thing that you can think about doing if you are not up for cancelling Christmas, you do need to be a part of it, or maybe you want to be a part of it, but you just want to make it better, is sit down and think about the last few Christmases that you've had and try and figure out what the most stressful element of it was for you, and then deal decisively with that specific element of it. So for example, if you remember that the last few Christmases you've had, it was one specific family member at the family gathering that really just got you hot and bothered, really annoyed, and you had to mentally prepare yourself to go and spend time with them, then you might want to think about different ways that you can address the way that you deal with that family member who is inevitably going to be there. You can also decide that there are going to be other things that stress you out about Christmas that you're going to eliminate or reduce in order to give you more energy to deal with the big problem. You might choose, for example, to go to less functions over Christmas, just RSVP no to a few more things, so that you can have as much mental energy, as much cognitive capacity as you can to deal with that family member that you tend to have issues with, to be kind of like with it enough to do the big family gathering that you know causes you stress. That's just one example. There could be many, many more. Sometimes you know that the big thing that stresses you out can't really be tackled. You can't walk away from it. But there might be lots of other smaller things that you know do really get on your nerves that you can bow out of in order to be able to give yourself more energy and more room, more mental space to do the thing that really grinds your gears. Have a think about it anyway. Have a think about if there's anything that you can eliminate or reduce so that you have more in the tank to deal with the other bits. If you know that overspending is definitely a problem for you and you tend to splash out a little bit too much on gifts for other people, then you might want to put a firm cap on it at the beginning of your present buying adventure. Just decide that you've got a budget and you're either going to split that budget evenly between everybody, or you're going to do big presents for certain people and then you're just going to have a cap of a certain small amount for everybody else's presents. You might want to do what I suggested at the beginning as well and write a list of good things to get people. My list includes things like tea, nice neutral smellies for the bathroom. Blankets are nice at this time of year. Blankets are really good present. You can do key rings, you can do tea towels, you can do just little mini bottles of alcohol. There's loads of really cute, nice things you can get that are not going to break the bank, that are still very festive. Remember that if you don't want to go to the main family event, for example, or the main party, but you do want to be present for other functions, that's totally okay. You are allowed to celebrate Christmas in a lesser way, in a more customized way. It's not just a case of you're in or you're out. And I think that's something that's really important that I would suggest, is that you don't have to bow out of Christmas completely like I've done. You can choose to send cards but not attend functions. You can choose to attend some functions but not all functions. It can happen more your way than you think it can. You don't necessarily have to bow out. I bowed out because it was what was best for me, and I love having my Christmas just chilling to myself, and it's either with a friend or two who also don't want to celebrate Christmas doing the family thing, and we'll just sit around watching films that are not related to Christmas. I like to do collage on Christmas Day, so I enjoy getting up. I will definitely have a drink before midday because it's fucking Christmas my way. Christmas my way, darling. And I'll just get all my collage bits and pieces out and do some art. I will not check my emails on that day. I will not do any work. I will just relax and have a lovely time and have it as a day off. I like to go for a walk on Christmas Day. That's really nice to do. Really enjoy that. There's so few people out on the street. It's really eerie and nice. I donate money on Christmas Day. It's very nice for me to be able to specifically do that on Christmas Day. It feels good. It feels more meaningful, as if I'm giving a gift to someone I don't know. If you're celebrating Christmas alone and that really is something that you struggle with, then I would definitely recommend having an itinerary planned for how you intend to spend the day. Sit down and figure out what time roughly you're going to be waking up, and then what kinds of things you're going to allow yourself to do. You can watch films, you can check out new films that you've never seen before, or revisit golden oldies. I think this year I'm probably going to watch Labyrinth. You can make art, you can declutter your space and just get it all nice. You can do ritual, you can do meditation. You can raid your watch later list, watching everything that you don't normally have time for. Reading in bed is a massive luxury for me. I very rarely have time to sit around and read in bed during the week, so I really enjoy having a nice, indulgent, long read in bed on Christmas Day, and occasionally that will be with a book that I have purchased myself for the pleasure of beginning to read it on Christmas Day. Sometimes it won't be, because I do have a stack of books I haven't read yet, so it's not really good to buy one, but sometimes I do see something and I think, you know what, I'd really love to start reading that on Christmas Day, and that gives me a push to read the book I am reading at the moment, so I can then get on to the one that I want to crack open on Christmas Day. So that feels really nice. You could do some baking in your kitchen. You could try a different recipe you've never tried before. You could enjoy making a dinner for yourself that doesn't have anything to do with Christmas dinner. You know, something completely different. Be a rebel. Not everyone's going to be happy if you make the decision to do Christmas differently, if you break with traditions that have been in place for a long time, or if you bow out completely, which is obviously a huge break with tradition. Not everyone is going to have your back and salute your decision and say, hey, how great, I hope you have a really nice alternative Christmas. There are going to be people in your life, more likely than not, who are going to feel like they would far rather that you just conceded that Christmas is a thing that needs to happen and you need to be involved, and you just got to do it and you just got to grin and bear it. There's definitely a lot of people, I think, that would far rather that people didn't rock the boat by bowing out of Christmas. But the thing is, I have got to do what I've got to do for me. And after a while of deliberating, this was the decision for me that I had to make. And I feel so much better with all of that stress off of my shoulders. I feel so much better not thinking about Christmas, this thing that really has no meaning in my life whatsoever. I feel like I can give friends and family who I love the attention that they deserve and that I want to give to them at other times. And it's at times where it's more spontaneous. It's either a birthday or it's a spontaneous time. I may have seen something that they might like and purchased it for them, or I might have just felt like writing them a long note or letter saying I love you and these are the reasons why. So it's more spontaneous and it feels like it means more. I feel like twisting my own arm, forcing my hand to buy presents or give time and give energy at Christmas is just not a way of doing it that I really enjoy. And it's not a way of doing it that I find to be sincere. And I would like to be sincere when I'm giving gifts or spending time with somebody. Sometimes it's worth just explaining that to people. It's worth just actually getting into a discussion with them about why it is that Christmas just does not mean anything to you, and how you would like to start to do things differently or refrain from doing things at all. The aim is not really to make somebody agree with your position or give you permission to do what you're going to do, and that really shouldn't be the aim. If you've got things that you want to change over Christmas, if you would like to give less gifts or not attend something or not involve yourself with a particular tradition or whatever, I would not recommend communicating that to your family or your friendship group in a way that is kind of like soliciting for their permission. You've got to give yourself permission. The permission has got to be internal. Nobody else can sign off on what you're doing. You need to sign off on it. You need to know that you are allowed to do things that way, that you have the permission. It comes from an internal place. If that person that you're explaining things to has a reasonable and empathetic reaction to what you said, that's great. That's the cherry on top. But you shouldn't need them to have a positive reaction to it in order to just go ahead and do what you've got to do. What is important to one person is not necessarily going to be important to you. And sometimes people are very mollycoddled away from that fact because everybody's making compromises for them. Everybody's carrying on with a specific framework, or even you might say a specific facade, so that other people can feel comfortable and other people can feel loved or wanted. But at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with someone having to sit down and think to themselves, why am I so angry and frustrated that so-and-so is not going to be here for Christmas? Why am I so angry that they've decided that they're going to do something that they would much prefer? Why am I angry that they don't feel the same way about Christmas that I do? There's nothing wrong with being the catalyst that may cause someone to have that kind of conversation with themselves. And I think a lot of things to do with Christmas, they are done on autopilot. They are very automatic. They are the kind of thing that you just do without thinking. You do because other people do it. You do it because you've always done it. You do it because that's what happens. And if you actually start to look at it and break it down and analyse it, you may realise, as I realised, that there is so much negativity involved with it, and that you feel drained afterwards, and you don't feel like you've gotten any real return on that energetic investment, and that feels really shitty. You have to own your decisions, really. You have to own your decisions. You have to know that they're being made from a place of self-love, and you've just got to work from that angle. And the way that other people perceive that angle from their own perspective has to be down to them to deal with. If you've got kids to buy for and you are struggling financially, then I don't think there's anything wrong with explaining to the adults in your life that you're not going to be present giving for them this year. And it's okay to ask them to refrain from giving you a present either, if that's what you'd like to do. If somebody doesn't understand why you would rather focus on treating your children at Christmas and making sure that they get the presents that you want them to have, rather than focusing on adults who already have a different perspective of Christmas for obvious reasons, i.e. they know where the money's got to come from for the gifts, then I don't know what to say about that. I just think adults should be aware that money is finite. It's a finite resource, and people do need to be sensible. And I think it's far better that someone is sensible and just says it how it is, and explains that the children come first and they are the priority in terms of material stuff. Anyone who's going to have a problem with that, again, really needs to go and have a word with themselves. There's actually nothing really more that you can say to someone who feels that way about you expressing that you will not be giving gifts to adults. Starting to do your own thing with Christmas, whether you're gonna bow out of it or you're gonna make some changes, it can definitely incur judgment and ridicule from people, for sure. But I feel like at the same time, you may also very much be giving other people permission, without even knowing it, to do things differently themselves. Sometimes a person is not strong enough, they're not brave enough for some reason to say that they want things to be different, that they are fed up of doing things in a particular way, and actually they've realised that they're a fully fucking grown adult and they don't have to do things this way, and they want to make a change. Sometimes people are not in a position in their lives where they feel like they can do that, and if they see somebody else do it first, it may give them the permission that they really need to say, look, this tradition just doesn't mean anything to me. It's empty, it's hollow, and I don't see why I keep giving it so much of my time and energy and money when it's not something that I really believe in. I don't want to do it. You might be the reason that somebody really ends their nasty, damaging relationship with Christmas and starts to make it better for themselves. It is well worth breaking the mold, sweethearts. It is well worth doing it. You could be literally a lifesaver for somebody who wants to break the mold themselves, but just isn't really sure how to go about it and feels like they might be judged or like they're all alone in the situation. And when they see that somebody else has also really had a struggle and wants to do things differently, it may give them the confidence that they need to proceed accordingly. If you decide that you don't want to be involved in all the parties for Christmas, or you don't want to give gifts, this would be the perfect time to think about other ways that you can make a fuss of the people in your life, maybe at other times. So if you've not been really that present for people's birthdays, if you know that you haven't made as much effort as you genuinely know that you could have to celebrate birthdays or send a card or send a gift, definitely consider stepping that up a little bit more. Keep a piece of paper or a note on your phone or computer that says when all of the people's birthdays are. All the people in your life, all the family, all the friends, all the people whose birthdays you would like to acknowledge. make sure that you keep a note of that so that you can give them that individual special attention that you would like to give them when it is more organic and less stressful. Don't forget that you can just do little random spontaneous things or send little spontaneous text messages. If you're normally somebody who feels a bit bashful about doing that and it's not something that is your usual style, you might want to think about bringing that in more if you can, because when you show people that you are thinking of them all year round, that you do have those special little moments where they are on your mind and you just reach out to say, hey, I hope you're okay, it really can show somebody that Christmas is not the only time to do stuff like that. It's not the only time to really acknowledge how important we are in each other's lives. If anything, all of the present giving and the materialism and everything else and the whole theme of Christmas may even somewhat take away from the genuine nature of the interaction, if you like. I definitely think that could be true. I think it's better when things are spontaneous and organic, but some people might not necessarily realise that, and maybe you could be the person to show them. Maybe you could be that person who just checks in or offers a favour, offers a helping hand, does something nice for someone, and this kind of starts a rippling understanding that that's more the way that we could be with each other, instead of acknowledging Christmas as the primary time of giving and then stressing ourselves out because we have to buy for everyone and we have to give to everyone and we have to spend time with loads of people. You might make certain decisions about Christmas and then later down the line you might change your mind and you might feel really Christmassy again and you might want to go back to the celebration. It might mean something to you again. And I'm not saying that that won't happen to me. I'm definitely open to the possibility that it may happen to me, that I might wake up one day, one year, and be like, oh, I'd really love to celebrate Christmas. I'd really love to go and see people. I'd love to get more into the festive spirit again. And I'm okay with the fact that that might happen in the future, but I'm not prepared to continue with a cheap facade of excitement and enthusiasm in the meantime while I'm waiting for that moment, you know? If that moment comes, then fine, but I'm not going to push for it. If you have a partner at the moment in your life and you usually celebrate Christmas together and they're very like pro-Christmas and you are realising that you really just don't want to celebrate and you want to give yourself permission to bow out, then you need to have that honest conversation. And it might be sad for your partner for sure, but I definitely think that the sooner you can make a change like this, the sooner you can move on, the sooner you can feel the relief of knowing that you do not necessarily have to keep putting up with something that is causing you so much stress and so much trepidation. Let's face it, the run up to Christmas is quite long. People are seeing presents and cards and stuff and decorations up in their towns and their shopping centres earlier and earlier. People complain all the time that they hear the first Christmas song in shops before Halloween has even been and gone, which I think is ridiculously early. And so because of that, the trepidation starts quite early. If you really are not feeling Christmas and you think it's all a bit pointless or it's very stressful or it's very expensive, you have got until literally, in some cases, the middle of October to fret over it and be upset about it because you're seeing Christmas related things. They start piling it on really, really early. So it's really a nail biter, I think, for people that aren't into it. It's not fair for you to have to keep going through that over this. And maybe there are quite a lot of people out there, I don't know, but maybe there are quite a lot of people out there who think and feel the way that I did, and they would love to just be able to say, I don't do Christmas, but they feel like they can't find a way. So in a sense, when we make decisions like this, which do seem quite severe or quite different or against the grain, we're being pioneers, and we need some pioneers in order to show other people that there is a direction that they can take which makes them feel better about any given situation. I think there are a lot of people that are trapped into Christmas, and that is what I feel around a lot of people when I am, for instance, in a shopping centre during the month of December, as I happened to be yesterday. That's what I see in people's faces. I see this feeling of entrapment. I don't see the joy and the positivity. And of course, yes, when people are opening their presents and they're together on the day, there might be a lot more of that positivity then. But how much has it taken out of you in emotional labour and cash in order to achieve that moment? And why is that the glowing, golden, wonderful moment when people open presents? Should we really be focusing on that in this day and age, in this kind of society? Should we really be focusing on materialism being the high point of the day? Those candid conversations are hard. When you want to strike out and break the mold, any candid conversation of that ilk is hard when you have a partner who is used to doing things with you a certain way. And look, even if you have children and you don't feel like you can just bow out of Christmas, because children are part of a community themselves. They go to school, they hang out with other kids. It's not the kind of thing you can do when they're used to it, and they won't really understand the full reasoning for you stopping it. You can still change things. Children adapt to change, and you can still say to them, kids, things are going to be different this year in these particular ways, and you can break it down for them. You can definitely have those candid conversations with children as well, and children will adapt even if they are disappointed at first. You might say, oh, I can't change things around with the kids because they're used to things a certain way. But imagine if you get another 5 years down the road and you realise that in those 5 years you have continued to raise your children within this framework that really makes you very miserable, that you don't agree with, that you don't necessarily think is best for them. You will begin to wish that you had just had the conversation earlier and nipped it in the bud when they were younger and done things differently. So it might be well worth thinking about whether or not you're hanging on to certain traditions or certain ways of thinking and ways of doing things within your family home because it's what is always being done. It's what's been done every year, so you don't want to break with it. And it might be worth thinking about whether or not that's a good enough reason not to break with it. To me, even just the way that we communicate with children when it comes to Christmas and what we train them to believe about Christmas is so unhealthy. It's just a really odd little story that we've created, isn't it? Like, why? What for? It is so fucking odd. And if I had children, I would really, really struggle with that because, of course, I want them to be able to interact with other kids. I would want them to be able to interact with other kids without giving the game away, and I also would not want them to feel like they had some kind of superiority over the other children because they were in on something that the other children hadn't been told, you know? So I feel like that is definitely a difficult part of it, where I wouldn't want to be deceptive. I wouldn't want to tell this bullshit story, which I actually really don't think is at all helpful for one's mental development, to be honest with you. I don't see the point of it whatsoever. I would definitely feel resentful about taking part in that, but at the same time I would see the social reason why I ought to take part in it. So it's very, very tangled. I would love to know what the parents out there think about this particular consideration. Let me know down below in the comments section what your thoughts are on this and what your particular approach to it is, and whether or not you feel like it's a useful thing to tell children. Is it a useful narrative for them to believe up until a certain age or not? What's your take on it? Well, cupcakes, I've completely finished my washing up. Now I just need to do that little wipe of the sideboards, which is that very satisfying full stop on the end of a very long sentence. I hope that my thoughts about Christmas have provided you with some insight or some support while you make your own decisions and make your own way through this festive time of year. Let me know below what you think about any of the things I mentioned in this video. What is your take on Christmas? How do you feel about it and why? All that kind of thing. And I will see you next time. Much love, darlings. Blessed be. We asked 20 strangers to take a shit in front of each other for the first time. This is what happens when you shit in front of a stranger. For fuck's sake. I think I have had my fill of the internet for the day.